When two curious twins stumbled upon a forgotten steam train in an abandoned mine, they had no idea the hidden treasure inside would change their lives forever. Alex and Jordan were twins, but unlike most twins who shared everything from clothes to hobbies, these two shared an unusual obsession: exploring forgotten places. Old houses, abandoned factories, and hidden tunnels fascinated them. They loved the quiet thrill of stepping into spaces no one else cared about anymore. Their parents often worried about their adventurous streak, but the twins had a knack for staying safe, or at least careful enough that nothing serious had ever happened. One Saturday morning, Jordan burst into their small shared apartment holding a crumpled piece of paper. "Look at this," he said, excitement shining in his eyes. It was an old map, hand-drawn, showing a network of tunnels leading to what was marked as Old Cedar Mine, according to local legends. The mine had been abandoned for decades, ever since a series of accidents forced it to close. But the most intriguing part of the map was a small symbol near the end of the main tunnel. It looked like a train. Alex raised an eyebrow. "A train? Underground?" he asked, leaning over to study the map. "I thought the mine was just for coal." "Exactly," Jordan said. "That's why we have to check it out. Who knows what's left down there?" The twins spent the next few days preparing for their expedition. They researched the history of the mine, learning about its early 20th century operations, the miners who had worked there, and stories of equipment and vehicles that had been left behind. They packed backpacks with flashlights, batteries, helmets, gloves, water, and snacks. They even brought along small cameras to document their findings. The thrill of stepping into the unknown made them feel alive in a way that ordinary life never could. When the day finally arrived, the sun was low in the sky, painting everything in gold and orange as they drove toward the mine. The entrance was hidden behind overgrown bushes and trees, almost invisible unless you knew exactly where to look. As soon as they stepped inside, the air changed. It was cooler, damper, and carried the scent of earth and rust. Shadows stretched across the walls, making every rock and beam look mysterious. Their footsteps echoed, amplifying the quiet in a way that made them both tense and exhilarated. The mine tunnels were narrow and winding, with wooden beams holding up the ceilings in some places and crumbling rock in others. They carefully picked their way through, using flashlights to inspect the walls for signs of old equipment or collapsed sections. Every corner held the potential for discovery, and their imaginations ran wild. Jordan joked about finding buried treasure, while Alex half-listened, scanning for anything unusual. Hours passed, and the twins had almost begun to think the rumors were exaggerated. Then, in a wide chamber that had clearly been reinforced for heavy machinery, they saw it. A steam train, sitting silently on rusted tracks. Its metal was covered in layers of dust and cobwebs, its wooden panels chipped and decaying. The sight took their breath away. Even in this ruined state, the train had a presence. As if it had been waiting for someone to notice it, they walked around it slowly, their hands brushing against cold metal. The wheels were enormous, heavy, and coated in rust, but the intricate designs on the engine were still visible. "I can't believe this," Alex whispered. "It's incredible that something like this has been hidden here for all these years." Jordan knelt to inspect a small plaque that had survived the corrosion. He traced the letters with his fingers, careful not to damage them. "It says 1912, he said. "This train is over 100 years old. Who knows how it ended up down here?" The twins spent the next hour examining every detail, taking photos and documenting their discovery. They wondered why no one had ever mentioned it in any of the historical records they had read. The train wasn't just old. It seemed like it had been part of something much bigger. They imagined the miners who might have used it, the tunnels it had traveled through, and the countless stories it could tell if it could speak. As the light began to fade, they reluctantly decided to leave. But the moment wasn't lost on them. The find was too significant to ignore. On the drive home, they talked nonstop, brainstorming ways to learn more about the train and how they could possibly restore it. Neither of them noticed the hours slipping by as the excitement grew with every mile. Back in their apartment, they spread out the photos and notes they had taken. Every detail, from the intricate metalwork to the rust patterns, seemed like a clue to the train's past. They began researching similar trains, old mining operations, and restoration techniques. The discovery had changed something inside both of them, a sense of purpose, a thrill that went beyond ordinary life, and the realization that they might have stumbled upon something extraordinary, hidden away for decades. That night, they couldn't sleep. Alex stared at the ceiling, imagining the train in its original glory, steam puffing from the engine, wheels turning as it navigated the mine tunnels. Jordan sat at the desk, sketching diagrams and making notes about possible restoration steps. The twins knew that this was just the beginning. The train wasn't just a forgotten machine. It was a puzzle, a challenge, and possibly a doorway to a story waiting to be uncovered. The discovery of the steam train in the abandoned mine became the spark for a journey that neither Alex nor Jordan could have imagined. It was more than exploration. It was a connection to history, adventure, and the thrill of uncovering secrets that had been buried by time. In that quiet, dusty chamber underground, two ordinary twins found the extraordinary, and nothing would ever be the same again. Alex and Jordan could hardly contain their excitement after discovering the abandoned steam train. Every moment since that day had been filled with planning, research, and endless discussions about what to do next. The thought of leaving the train in the dusty mine was unbearable. It was more than a relic. It felt like a piece of history calling out to them. But before they could restore it, they needed to make it theirs legally. They had to find out who owned the abandoned mine and negotiate a purchase. Their first step was a visit to the local town hall. The building was old, with creaking floors and a faint smell of ink and paper. Alex and Jordan approached the records office and explained their situation to the clerk, a middle-aged man named Mr. Harlow. He raised an eyebrow when they mentioned the mine. "Nobody's been interested in that property for decades," he said. "It's mostly just liability now, but I can give you the owner's contact information." With the name and address in hand, the twins set out to find the owner. It was a long drive to a small farmhouse several miles outside of town. When they arrived, an elderly man named Mr. Whitaker greeted them. He had a weathered face and eyes that hinted at decades of experience with the land and its history. After some polite conversation, Alex and Jordan explained their interest in the mine and the steam train. "I haven't been down there in years," Mr. Whitaker said slowly. "Most folks wouldn't go near it. Dangerous place. You sure you want it?" "Yes," Jordan said firmly, his eyes shining with determination. "We want to restore the train. We understand the risks, and we're willing to take responsibility." The old man studied them for a long moment. Then, surprisingly, he smiled. "All right. You seem serious? Most people just want to tear the place down or make trouble. I can sell it to you, but you'll need to handle everything. Repairs, safety, everything. I'm not paying anyone to help." Negotiations were tense but fair. The twins had done their homework and knew the value of the mine, and the abandoned equipment wasn't high on the market. Yet they could sense that the train might be worth more. After several hours of discussion, a deal was struck. They signed the paperwork, and Mr. Whitaker handed over the keys to the mine. As they drove away, a sense of triumph mixed with nervous anticipation filled the car. The train was theirs. The next challenge was getting it out of the mine. The tracks were narrow, and the tunnels had collapsed in some areas, making transportation nearly impossible. They hired a small crew of workers who specialized in moving heavy equipment. Everyone was cautious, aware that one wrong move could damage the train irreparably. The process took days, involving careful dismantling of certain parts, securing the engine, and slowly moving it piece by piece as the train emerged from the mine. Covered in dirt and rust, the twins felt a wave of awe. Seeing it in the open air, illuminated by sunlight for the first time in decades, was almost magical. It was bigger than they had realized, and its age and craftsmanship were even more impressive. People passing by stopped to watch, curious about the strange sight of an old steam train being moved through the countryside. Once the train was safely transported, it was placed in a nearby workshop that the twins had rented specifically for this project. The workshop smelled of oil, metal, and old wood, a perfect environment for restoration. They spent the first few days cleaning and cataloging every part, noting damages, missing pieces, and areas that would require special attention. They even documented the process with photos and videos, imagining that one day it might inspire others to pursue historical restoration projects. While inspecting the train, they noticed strange features they hadn't seen before. Hidden panels, reinforced areas, and unusual metalwork suggested that this train was not ordinary. "I think this train was meant to carry something important," Alex said one afternoon, brushing dust off a heavily riveted compartment. Jordan nodded, equally fascinated. "Whatever it was, someone went to great lengths to hide it," he said. The discovery of these unusual features made the twins even more excited. They realized that restoring the train wasn't just about bringing it back to life. It might uncover secrets that had been lost for decades. Every evening after long days in the workshop, they would sit together, planning the next steps, researching historical documents, and brainstorming ways to carefully investigate the train without damaging it. Their friends were amazed at what they were doing. Some thought the twins were obsessed, but most were supportive, helping in small ways, bringing tools, researching historical records, or even just offering encouragement. The community slowly became invested in their project. Local historians were intrigued by the potential historical significance of the train, and a few journalists even hinted at wanting to cover their story once something remarkable was uncovered, even as they worked. The twins had to manage the practical challenges of restoration. Funding was limited, so they relied on careful budgeting, scouring secondhand markets for parts, and learning skills they had never thought they'd need. Welding, metal polishing, mechanical repair, and historical research all became part of their daily lives. The train wasn't just a machine. It was a teacher, forcing them to learn patience, precision, and teamwork. One evening, while inspecting the boiler, Jordan paused. "Do you see this?" he said, pointing to a series of odd markings hidden beneath a layer of rust. The markings looked like symbols, unlike anything they had seen before. Alex knelt beside him, brushing the rust away. "It's deliberate," he said. "Someone didn't want us to find this, or they wanted to hide something." The twins spent the rest of the night hypothesizing. Could the train have been used to transport valuable cargo? Was it involved in some secret operation during the mine's active years? The questions were endless, and the possibilities fueled their curiosity. Each new discovery, no matter how small, added to their excitement. By the time the first week in the workshop ended, Alex and Jordan had not only secured legal ownership of the train, but had also laid the foundation for the most important project of their lives. They were no longer just curious explorers. They were caretakers of a mysterious piece of history, tasked with uncovering its secrets and preserving it for the future. The challenge was enormous, but the twins felt ready. The train was no longer lost. It belonged to them, and with it, the promise of adventure, discovery, and maybe even fortune awaited. The restoration of the steam train became the center of Alex and Jordan's lives. Every morning, they arrived at the workshop eager to work, their backpacks filled with tools, notebooks, and sometimes even snacks for long hours ahead. The train, once hidden in the dark mine, now gleamed under the bright workshop lights, though still covered in rust, grime, and years of neglect. It was a giant puzzle, each part holding clues to its past, and the twins were determined to piece it together carefully. The first step was cleaning. Using brushes, cloths, and gentle chemicals, they removed layers of dirt, dust, and rust. They marveled at the intricate design of the wheels, pistons, and gears, noticing that the craftsmanship was far superior to anything they had seen before. Alex ran his fingers along the engraved metal, imagining the hands that had built it more than 100 years ago. Jordan, meanwhile, meticulously documented every detail, taking notes and photographs so that they could study them later. As they worked, small surprises began to appear. Hidden panels in the side of the train seemed to have been deliberately concealed. Some compartments had locks that were surprisingly sophisticated for a train of this age. "Someone didn't want just anyone to open this," Jordan said, excitement creeping into his voice. Alex nodded. "Or they wanted to hide something valuable," he replied, his mind racing with possibilities. Day by day, the twins dismantled the engine and boiler. It was slow and painstaking work. Each part had to be carefully labeled and stored to avoid mistakes. Sometimes they had to learn new skills on the spot. They watched videos on old steam engines, read technical manuals, and even consulted experts online. There were moments of frustration, parts that wouldn't budge, bolts that had rusted solid, but they always found a way through. With every challenge, their excitement grew, their bond strengthened. One afternoon, while inspecting the boiler, Alex noticed something unusual. The metal seemed thicker in certain areas, almost like it was reinforced. He tapped it lightly, and a hollow sound echoed back. "Jordan, I think there's something inside this boiler," he said, his voice barely above a whisper. Jordan crouched down and examined it closely. "It doesn't make sense," he said. "Boilers don't usually have this much metal or extra compartments. This is ... different." The discovery sparked a mix of curiosity and caution. The twins realized they were dealing with more than just an ordinary steam engine. The reinforced sections and hidden compartments hinted that the train had a secret purpose. They began researching historical records about unusual trains used during the early 20th century. Stories of smuggling, secret shipments, and mysterious cargo surfaced, fueling their imagination. Could this train have carried something extremely valuable, hidden away for decades? The workshop became a place of investigation. Alex and Jordan spent long hours carefully examining every bolt, panel, and gear. They drew diagrams and notes, cross-referencing historical designs to identify which parts were original and which might have been modified. Sometimes they stayed late into the night, the only sounds being the hum of the workshop lights and the scratching of pens on paper. They grew more and more convinced that the train held a secret waiting to be uncovered, while dismantling the engine. They found old markings engraved on the metal. They looked like codes or symbols rather than letters or numbers. "I wonder if this is some kind of message or clue," Jordan said, brushing off the rust to reveal more of the markings. Alex examined them carefully, trying to match them with anything in their research notes. "It's deliberate," he said finally. "Someone wanted these markings to survive. They must mean something important." Their curiosity kept them awake at night, but the twins were also careful. They knew the importance of documenting everything. They made detailed photographs and notes, sometimes working until the early hours of the morning. Every discovery, no matter how small, felt like a step closer to uncovering the train's mystery. The reinforced boiler, the secret panels, and the cryptic markings all hinted at a story that had been buried for decades. Even as they worked, life outside the workshop continued. Their friends were fascinated by the twins' project, offering small bits of help finding tools, researching old newspapers, or simply providing encouragement. Local historians started taking notice too. They came to see the train, asking questions, and sharing knowledge about similar historical vehicles. The twins realized that their project was no longer just personal. It was becoming a story of public interest, a piece of living history. One day, while removing a panel in the boiler, Jordan accidentally pressed a hidden latch. There was a click, and the panel shifted slightly. The twins froze. "Did you see that?" Alex whispered. They exchanged glances, both hearts racing. It was a small movement, but it confirmed their suspicions. The train had a hidden compartment. They carefully examined the area, realizing that they might be moments away from discovering something truly remarkable. Their anticipation grew with each passing day. They were not just restoring a train. They were uncovering a secret that had been hidden for generations. The reinforced boiler, the hidden panels, and the unusual markings all suggested that the train had carried something extremely valuable. Every discovery increased the stakes, making the project more thrilling and more important. By the end of the month, the train had been cleaned, documented, and partially dismantled. The twins could now clearly see the intricate design of the engine, the reinforced compartments, and the potential hiding places for whatever secret the train carried. Each part they examined brought them closer to understanding its history and purpose. They knew they were on the verge of a major breakthrough. Even in moments of exhaustion, Alex and Jordan felt alive. The workshop smelled of oil, metal, and dust, but it also carried the scent of adventure. Every tool, every note, and every discovery made them feel like pioneers exploring a lost world. They weren't just twins fixing a forgotten train. They were uncovering a story that had been waiting for someone to find it. By the time the sun set each evening, the twins would sit together, reviewing their notes, sharing theories, and imagining what the final discovery might be. They were patient but excited, careful but relentless. The train was no longer just a machine. It was a puzzle, a mystery, and a potential doorway to treasure or history or both. As the nights grew longer, the anticipation became almost unbearable. Alex and Jordan knew that the next phase of their work could reveal something incredible. Every bolt removed, every panel examined, and every marking deciphered brought them closer to understanding the train's true purpose. The train was no longer just a relic from the past. It was a key to a secret waiting to be discovered. Alex and Jordan had spent weeks carefully examining the steam train, documenting every bolt, panel, and marking. The workshop had become their world, a place where time seemed to stretch, and every hour brought them closer to unraveling the train's secrets. They were cautious but driven, aware that they might be on the verge of discovering something extraordinary. The reinforced boiler and hidden compartments had already hinted that this was no ordinary train, and both twins felt a growing sense of anticipation that something remarkable lay just ahead. One morning, Jordan arrived early, his backpack full of tools, notebooks, and flashlights. Alex was already in the workshop, studying a set of diagrams and old photographs of similar steam engines. "I think we're ready," Jordan said, a hint of nervous excitement in his voice. "The boiler has held its secret long enough. Today, we find out what's inside." They donned their gloves and safety glasses, and with careful precision began inspecting the reinforced boiler once again. Jordan gently tapped along the metal, listening for hollow areas, while Alex examined the edges for seams or latches. Hours passed as they slowly worked, methodically removing rusted panels and old insulation. Each movement was deliberate, as they knew a wrong touch could damage something important. Then, almost by accident, Jordan noticed a small lever hidden behind a rusted pipe. It was cleverly concealed, blending almost perfectly with the surrounding metal. He called Alex over, and together they examined it. "This has to be it," Jordan whispered. "This is the mechanism that opens the hidden compartment."
Alex
Carefully pulled the lever. There was a faint click, followed by the sound of metal sliding. Their hearts raced as a small panel on the side of the boiler shifted slightly, revealing a dark cavity inside. They shone their flashlights into the opening and were stunned by what they saw. Inside were neatly stacked bars of gold, glinting even in the dim light. Beside the gold were velvet pouches containing what appeared to be rare jewels, rubies, emeralds, and sapphires that sparkled as if catching the excitement of the moment. Jordan's hands trembled as he reached in to carefully remove one of the gold bars. This is unbelievable," he said, unable to find words. Alex nodded, his eyes wide, staring at the treasure. "All those stories about secret shipments. I think we found one of them. This boiler was never meant to just power a train. It was a safe." They spent the next hour carefully exploring the compartment. Hidden among the treasure were old documents, some yellowed with age, detailing shipments, transactions, and names. The papers appeared to be related to wealthy merchants and secret dealings from the early 1900s. It became clear that the train had been used likely to avoid theft or attention. The twins realized that they weren't just holding treasure, they were holding history. Alex and Jordan paused, overwhelmed by the discovery. They had imagined something valuable, perhaps a rare artifact or old mining equipment, but nothing like this. Gold, jewels, and historical documents, everything had been perfectly preserved, hidden away in a forgotten mine for decades. They knew that this find would attract immense attention. They needed to think carefully about their next steps. After taking a few moments to collect themselves, they began documenting the find. Every gold bar, every jewel, and every document was photographed and cataloged. They carefully noted the position of each item, understanding that the arrangement might provide clues about how and why it had been hidden. Their meticulous nature ensured that nothing was disturbed unnecessarily, preserving the historical integrity of the discovery. The twins also realized they needed expert advice. While they were capable of restoring the train, Handling such valuable and historically significant items required professionals. They contacted a historian specializing in early 20th century transportation and hidden cargo. The historian was amazed by the photographs and urged them to handle everything with the utmost care, noting that items like these could be worth millions and were of immense cultural and historical significance. As news of the discovery spread carefully among trusted experts, Alex and Jordan began to feel the weight of responsibility. This wasn't just about them anymore. The treasure, the jewels, and the documents were part of history, and it was their duty to ensure it was preserved properly. At the same time, they could feel excitement building in ways they had never experienced before. The mundane world of their small apartment in ordinary lives had been replaced by something extraordinary. The weeks following the discovery were a whirlwind of activity. Legal matters had to be addressed to confirm ownership and ensure the treasure was properly documented. Valuations were conducted by independent experts. The twins worked closely with museum curators, historians, and legal advisors to ensure that the items were protected and properly recorded. Despite the complexity, Alex and Jordan thrived in this environment. Every conversation, every decision, reinforced their belief that they had uncovered something genuinely historic. The train itself became even more fascinating in light of the treasure. Every panel and compartment now had a story. Alex and Jordan could imagine the careful planning that had gone into hiding the gold and jewels, the measures taken to ensure the cargo remained undisturbed, and the risks someone must have taken to conceal it in such a dangerous abandoned mine. It was not just a train. It was a time capsule, a cleverly engineered vault on wheels. Even with all the excitement, the twins never lost sight of the joy of restoration. They continued repairing and cleaning the train, polishing the metal, and restoring wooden panels. The discovery of the treasure had elevated their project from a hobby into a historical mission. Each repaired gear, each restored surface, reminded them that they were breathing life back into a machine that had played a small but extraordinary role in history. As the days passed, they began sharing their story in a controlled way, allowing historians and museum officials to document everything. Journalists and collectors became interested, but the twins were careful to manage access, protecting the integrity of both the train and the treasure. They realized that the value of their discovery wasn't just monetary. It was cultural, historical, and emotional. They had stumbled upon a secret that had been hidden for generations. They were the first to uncover it in over a century. The hidden treasure also brought moments of reflection. Alex and Jordan talked about how strange it was to think that, just a few months ago, they were exploring a dusty, abandoned mine for fun. Now, they were responsible for millions of dollars worth of treasure and pieces of history that could change people's understanding of the past. The journey from curiosity to discovery had been rapid, intense, and transformative. Evenings in the workshop took on a new tone. The air was filled not just with the smell of oil and metal, but with awe and wonder. Alex and Jordan would sit together, examining a jewel or reading a document, imagining the stories behind each item. Who had hidden the treasure? Why had it been left here? How many people had searched for it and failed? Each unanswered question added to the mystery and magic of their find. By the end of this phase, the twins understood something important. Their adventure was not just about restoring an old train or finding treasure. It was about preserving history, solving a long-forgotten mystery, and experiencing the thrill of discovery in its purest form. They had found the treasure, but the journey had changed them more than any gold or jewel ever could. The hidden boiler had revealed its secret, and Alex and Jordan had uncovered a story buried in time. The excitement was no longer just about exploration. It was about understanding, responsibility, and the extraordinary way ordinary lives can intersect with history. With the treasure carefully documented and secured, the twins turned their attention back to the train, eager to continue restoration. Knowing that every movement of their hands was part of a story much larger than themselves. After the discovery of the treasure hidden in the steam train, Alex and Jordan's lives changed completely. What had started as an adventurous hobby had transformed into a serious responsibility. The excitement of finding gold, jewels, and historical documents was enormous. But with it came careful planning and many important decisions. The twins realized that the next steps were just as crucial as uncovering the secret. They had to make sure everything was preserved properly and handled safely. The first priority was legal matters. Even though the mine and train were now theirs, the treasure was a different story. Alex and Jordan knew they could not simply keep everything. Such a find required proper documentation and compliance with laws about historical artifacts and precious items. They contacted legal experts who specialized in property and historical treasures. These experts guided them on how to ensure that the treasure was legally protected and that the historical documents were preserved in a way that respected their cultural significance. While the legalities were being addressed, the twins focused on documenting and securing the treasure. Every gold bar, jewel, and document was photographed, measured, and cataloged. They carefully recorded the position of each item in the boiler compartment, noting even minor details like scratches or markings. Alex and Jordan understood that once the items were moved, some historical information could be lost if they did not maintain accurate records. They treated each item with reverence, as though handling history itself. As news of their discovery slowly spread, historians and museum curators became involved. Several experts visited the workshop, examining the treasure and taking notes. They were fascinated not only by the monetary value of the find, but also by the story it told about early 20th century trade, smuggling, and engineering. The twins realized that their discovery was more than just wealthy, was a glimpse into a forgotten chapter of history. The train and its hidden cargo were teaching lessons that had been buried for generations. The museum curators suggested that part of the treasure should be donated for public display. After discussions and careful consideration, Alex and Jordan agreed. They wanted the public to appreciate the historical significance of the train and its cargo. Some of the gold and jewels were entrusted to the museum under secure conditions, while the historical documents were carefully restored and placed in archival quality storage. Seeing the items displayed for the first time, with experts explaining their historical context, was an emotional moment for the twins. It felt like sharing a piece of their lives and their adventure with the world at the same time. The twins kept a portion of the treasure to fund their restoration projects and future explorations. They decided not to sell it, but rather to use it to support their growing passion for uncovering and preserving forgotten history. Alex and Jordan also invested in improving the workshop, buying better tools, safety equipment, and learning resources. Their project had grown from a single steam train to a full-scale endeavor, where they could take on more restoration projects and uncover more hidden histories. Restoring the train itself became a symbolic and practical focus. Every polished metal panel, every repaired wooden plank, and every functioning gear was a reminder that the twins had succeeded, not only in discovering history, but in keeping it alive. The train slowly transformed from a dusty relic into a magnificent piece of machinery, gleaming under the workshop lights. Neighbors, friends, and historians would visit to watch the transformation, each visitor leaving with awe at both the train and the story it carried. The twins also began sharing their journey more widely, documenting the restoration process in videos and journals. They wanted to inspire others to explore, research, and respect history. Their story became a mix of adventure, detective work, and historical preservation. They spoke at local schools and community centers, explaining how curiosity, careful research, and teamwork could lead to extraordinary discoveries. People were fascinated by the idea that a lost train in an abandoned mine could hide such a secret for decades. Even with all the attention, Alex and Jordan remained humble. They often reflected on how the adventure began simply. Two curious twins exploring an abandoned mine on a Saturday afternoon. It was a reminder that great discoveries often start with small steps, careful observation, and a willingness to follow curiosity wherever it leads. They also realized that teamwork and trust were essential. Every decision had been made together, every risk assessed together, and every triumph celebrated together. The twins had grown closer through the project, their bond stronger than ever. Their discovery also brought practical lessons. Handling valuable treasure required patience, precision, and careful planning. Working with historians and legal experts taught them about responsibility and accountability. They learned that the thrill of discovery came with obligations to preserve history, respect the law, and share knowledge. The experience reshaped the way they saw themselves and their potential for the future. Over time, twins' story attracted media attention, but they were careful to control the narrative. They wanted to focus on the historical significance, the restoration work, and the sense of adventure rather than just the monetary value of the treasure. Articles and documentaries highlighted the steam train, its secret cargo, and the incredible journey of two young explorers who had uncovered it. Alex and Jordan became recognized not just as adventurers, as guardians of history. The restoration of the train reached completion months later. The engine could move, the wheels were polished, and even the smallest details were repaired with care. Seeing the train alive again, Alex and Jordan felt a mix of pride, nostalgia, and awe. The journey from discovery to restoration had transformed both the machine and themselves. It was no longer just a relic. It was a symbol of curiosity, persistence, the power of exploration. Looking back, the twins reflected on everything they had learned. They realized that the true treasure wasn't just gold or jewels. It was the experience itself. Discovering the train, uncovering its secret, navigating the challenges, and restoring it had taught them lessons they would carry for life. Adventure, history, responsibility, and teamwork had combined into an experience far greater than anything they could have imagined. When they first stepped into the abandoned mine, in the end, Alex and Jordan had accomplished something extraordinary. They had restored a lost steam train, uncovered a treasure hidden for decades, preserved priceless historical documents, and shared their discoveries with the world. Their lives were forever changed, not only by what they found, but by what they learned along the way. The adventure had started as a simple curiosity and had grown into a story of history, treasure, and legacy. The steam train now stood as a symbol of their journey, shiny and restored, carrying the memory of a hidden past and the excitement of discovery. The twins understood that while the mine had hidden its secrets for decades, it had chosen the right people to uncover them. And through their hard work, careful planning, and unshakable curiosity, Alex and Jordan had ensured that the story of the lost steam train and its treasure would be remembered for generations to come.